Hi, I'm Jim Eckberg, a graduate student at the University of Minnesota, and I'm sitting next to a soybean plant infested with soybean aphids. Around 13 years ago, the soybean aphid, which is an insect, was introduced in the U.S., and since then it's become a major pest of soybeans in the upper Midwest. Our research is looking at integrating perennial crops into soybeans in order to attract predators of soybean aphids. And this is important because since the soybean aphid has been introduced, there's been a huge increase in the amount of pesticides used on the landscape, over 130-fold increase. So come along with us as we talk about how this problem first developed and what we're doing to try to solve this.
Historically, agricultural landscapes were planted to a diversity of crops, but increasingly homogeneous monocultures have been planted on the landscape, and this leaves less habitat for insect predators like ladybugs to persist in the environment. So when the soybean aphid arrived over 13 years ago, this became particularly detrimental to soybean plants because there are so few predators of soybean aphids on the landscape. So our research is looking at using perennial sunflowers and other native perennial plants to produce food, fuel, and control pests like aphids. But the question is, can this work? Well, let's go talk to Julie Peterson, a postdoc working on this project, to see how she thinks this might be a feasible idea.
Hi, I'm Julie Peterson. I'm a postdoc at the University of Minnesota in the Department of Entomology with George Heimpel, and I'm working on the Biofuels Biocontrol project, where we're looking at perennial cropping systems such as willows and mixed prairies to try to attract in predators and parasitoids that will help to control the invasive soybean aphid. So we have these really nice research plots down in Rosemont. And one of the really neat observations that we made this summer when we were out working at the fields is that these perennial sunflower plants were just crawling with ladybugs. And ladybugs are one of the really good natural enemies that we're interested in because they'll eat lots of soybean aphid. So these sunflowers were crawling with ladybugs, and we weren't really sure what was going on there. But whenever we looked into it a little bit more, we could see that the sunflowers were actually releasing sticky nectar from the edges of their leaves in addition to from the flowers. And it looks like the ladybugs are actually eating this extra floral nectar. So we wanted to see if this is going to be helpful to the ladybugs. This is going to help them to actually be able to eat more aphids in the field. So we've brought in colonies of ladybugs, and we also have a variety of perennial sunflowers growing in the greenhouse. And we're trying to figure out what's going on with the relationship between these plants and these really important predators. So why don't we go check them out in the greenhouse and see what's happening.
Finally, to know if these sunflowers are in fact supplying more sugar to these ladybugs, we do this advanced test called anthron testing to test for actual sugar in the guts of ladybugs. And if in fact there is increased sugar in those ladybugs, and we find more ladybugs associated with the sunflowers, we might be starting to think that these sunflowers are actually working to enhance biocontrol in these fields. And so, there you have it. This research team will be working to develop perennial plants as a means to control agricultural pests in the coming years.